Good morning and welcome to Frank's School. 55th day of the 7th year, first video. This is the making of Resurrection, the wordless movie, Act 5. And this is getting easy now because I've had a pretty good idea of how Act 5 was going to go for quite a while. I put the entrance of the Queen of Sheba there. This is from Handel's oratorio Solomon. It's just another idea of the medley of joyous music that could be put into that parade to the wedding. All right, now Act 5. Basically, it would be a drone shot. It would start. It will start probably by revisiting that very first image, that photograph from say 1870 or so of this village, and maybe even of the terrible state that it was in the overture is what I'm talking about there. It could echo that, but it would have to be short, and not long enough to reestablish that dreary effect that the overture would have. Now, for the music for it, et incarnatus passus est sepulchros est, I think that's spelled right, and then et resurrexit. These are three movements from the B minor Mass, Bach's B minor Mass, and this was made flesh, or that the translation of it, died and was buried. It's part of the creed in the B minor Mass, and I need it's important that you realize that although I'm drawing from Christian music, I would not want, it would be a mistake to think that this was just strictly a Christian view of resurrection. No, I mean, I'm using that music, and I'm not putting it that the Christian story of resurrection down in any way. It's just that this is a different kind of resurrection. That's what I would use. These very quickly. And why I would use them, maybe not that one at all. Maybe I would just go this one. Because in the B minor Mass, the Baroque composers, they love to, I can think it was called symbolism, they would love to use their music to show what the text was saying. And I've got Reverend Ed Andrews up here, an old friend of mine. He's died now for quite a while. But he was my mentor in Baroque and classical music, at least as an adult, and I learned so much from him. And I remember him telling me about this and explaining that at Resurrexit, the way that movement begins, it's like he didn't come back to life, he leaped back to life, is the way Ed Andrews would say that, at Resurrexit. And that would be then the music that I would have play, just like the overture in a way, as the drone would fly. Oh, and I have this up here, September 2020. In a sense, I have a deadline here. I've got basically a year and a half to resurrect this village, because that's when the drone flight would occur, and it would basically show everything. Unlike the wedding part, which would purposely limit the view to the people and the down close, this would be of the whole village. And I say I would want it before the election in the United States, because this movie is didactic. I mean, it's to show and offer a new dream that if it would work, people would begin to think differently. All right. Well, the drone would basically follow the same path as the overture. It would revisit the various views, but see now. I mean, there's living roofs on everything. They'd be in flower. The whole village would look like it was timber framed with these huts. Even the main buildings would look very different. The extras could be waving at the drone as the drone goes by. I see no reason not to. It would be a chance to sort of get their curtain call in. And I think of the last shot of Much Ado About Nothing. I remember. See, that was in the 1990s, and I don't think I'd ever seen a drone used before. And I suppose that's how they filmed. It had to be. that's how they filmed it. But anyway, that was one very long shot during the dance at the end of Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing. Well, eventually it wouldn't just be all over the place. It would take a particular route and eventually head up the hill and the main characters then would be climbing that hill, and the drone would follow them. And that's the hill where Marion was sitting, watching the characters, in a sense, summoning the characters to him. And up there, Bryn and Marion would part ways. And this could certainly be, well, it would be an echo of what had happened before. There could easily be a reprise of her theme as she heads back into the woods where she came out of. She'll be met by David, who is her mate, her husband, if you wish. And David is a character from, I spoke about this earlier, I think. The Song of Marion's Daughter deals with David. He's a black man. He's not particularly big, but he's extremely athletic and is extremely buff. And you wouldn't necessarily see him that close, but it would explain that she's going back now to her mate, and they'll go up on the mountain. Well, you might say that this would break Marion's heart in a sense. That's not really quite true. He knows she's got to go back, but he could fall, maybe go down. He fails, but maybe he falls. He's been failing right along. And, I thought it could kill him, like at the end of King Lear, his grief over his daughter kills the king. And I don't think, that's not true. That would not have to happen. As a matter, well, it couldn't. They'd go to him, they'd get him up, and Nama and Festus would then support him as they would start to head back down the hill. And, if this were done right, the viewers might think, well, this is now the end of the movie, but it's not. Then comes the coda, which I'll tell you about tomorrow.